My name is Nana May, and this happened to me. The bank message arrived while I was stirring lentils on the stove. Account access removed. I froze. The spoon slipped from my hand and clattered into the pot. Steam rose. My heart didn't. I stared at my phone. Read it again. Then again. Removed. That word kept echoing like a verdict. I had raised 3 children, buried my husband, sold my jewelry to pay for school fees, and now a machine was telling me I no longer belonged to my own life. I whispered, why? No one answered. I opened our family WhatsApp group. Family Forever Red Heart. Last message was from my daughter, Nimra, sent at 6:42 a.m. Amy, we'll pick you up at 11. Bring your CNIC and bank papers. Don't worry. It's just routine. Just routine. That's what she had said when she moved me out of my own bedroom. That's what she said when she sold my sewing machine. That's what she said when she told me the house was too big for me now. I typed, why is my account blocked? Seen. No reply. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. 11:07 a.m. Their car pulled into the driveway. Nimra got out first. She was wearing sunglasses. Didn't smile. Behind her, my son-in-law Faraz stepped out, already talking on his phone. They didn't hug me. They didn't ask if I'd eaten. Faraz said, Nana May, let's go. We're running late. Late for what? I picked up my purse. Inside, I slipped a small folded note. Just in case. At the bank. The air was too cold. The chairs too hard. The smiles too fake. Nimra sat close. Too close. She slid a stack of documents toward me. Sign here. And here. And here. I looked at the papers. Words blurred. Power of attorney. Property transfer. Digital estate authorization. My name was everywhere. But my voice was nowhere. I whispered, why do you need this? She leaned in, voice sweet, eyes sharp. Nana May, don't make a scene. It's for your safety. For my safety. That's when the cashier looked up. She glanced at my shaking hands, then at the small note I was holding. Her eyes paused. Ma'am, what is this? My heart stopped. Nimra's hand tightened on my arm. Just sign, she hissed. But the cashier unfolded the note and read the words. Her face changed. Slowly, gravely, she looked at me and said, Ma'am, are you being forced to sign these? The room went silent. Nimra stood up. You have no right. The cashier raised her hand. I do. And so does she. That's when I realized. My daughter wasn't here to help me. She was here to erase me. And I still didn't know the worst part. My name is Nana May, and the last time I trusted my daughter, it almost erased me. The security guard stood behind the cashier now. Not close, not threatening, but present. And that alone told me this was no longer a routine visit. Nimra's smile had vanished. Her lips pressed into a thin, angry line as she turned to me. Amy, she stopped herself, then tried again, softer. Nana May, you're misunderstanding. You always do this. Always. That word landed heavy. I had carried it for years. Always too emotional. Always too slow. Always too sensitive. The cashier cleared her throat. Ma'am, if you feel pressured, you have the right to stop this transaction immediately. My hands trembled. I didn't know where to look. At the papers? At Nimra? At the part of myself that still wanted to believe this was all a mistake? Faraz finally ended his call. He glanced at the guard, then at me. Let's not overreact, he said calmly. We're just organizing her finances. She's getting old. Old. Not sick. Not confused. Just inconvenient. I swallowed. I can still read, I said quietly. Nimra sighed dramatically, as if I were a stubborn child. We know, Nana May. But the bank apps confuse you. The bills. The passwords. You always call me. Because you changed them, I wanted to say. But the words stayed trapped in my chest. The walk of shame. The cashier asked us to step aside. People stared. A young woman whispered to her friend. An old man shook his head slowly. Nimra walked ahead, heels clicking, jaw tight. I followed, feeling small, invisible, exposed. In the private room, the manager joined us. Ma'am, he said gently, do you want to proceed with these documents? I looked at Nimra. She nodded quickly. I looked at Faraz. He avoided my eyes. I finally looked at myself. The woman in the reflection on the glass wall looked tired, wrinkled, defeated. I whispered, I need time. Nimra exploded. For God's sake. We cleared our entire day for this. Her voice echoed. The manager raised his eyebrows. Ma'am, perhaps you should come back another day. Nimra grabbed her purse. Fine. Let's go. She didn't wait. In the car. The silence was violent. Faraz drove. Nimra stared out the window. I watched buildings pass. All those lives. All those secrets. Finally, I spoke. Why was my account blocked? Nimra laughed. A sharp, ugly sound. Because you kept interfering. Interfering? With my own life. She turned. You don't understand the pressure we're under. The house payments. The school fees. Your medical bills. My bills are paid, I said. She scoffed. For now. That's when I realized. They weren't planning to help me. They were planning to replace me. The first crack. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 2:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. A WhatsApp voice note from an unknown number. I hesitated, then pressed play. It was Nimra's voice. Faraz, just make sure she signs. Once the property is transferred, we're safe. My breath caught. Another voice. Faraz. She's stubborn. What if she refuses? Nimra sighed. Then we'll say the doctor said she's not mentally fit. The lawyer already agreed. The room spun. Mentally unfit. Me. The woman who raised them. I dropped the phone. Tears soaked the pillow. I wanted to scream. But I didn't. I stayed quiet. To keep the peace. The digital trap. The next morning, my card was declined at the pharmacy. The cashier said, Ma'am, your account is restricted. Restricted. Another word. Another wall. I walked home slowly. Neighbors waved. They didn't know I was disappearing. Inside, I checked my email. A message from the bank. Your digital estate profile has been updated. Updated by who? I clicked the link. It asked for a code. I didn't have one. Someone had already locked me out. That's when I realized this wasn't about money. It was about control. My name is Nana May, and I found the truth in a place where they thought I would never look. The message was still glowing on my phone when I reached the bedroom. You are not alone. Check your old trunk. The blue file. I read it again. Then again. Unknown number. No profile photo. No name. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit on the edge of the bed. For a moment, I wondered if this was another trick. Another lie designed to confuse me. Nimra had always said I was forgetful, that I misplaced things, that I imagined problems. But this message, it felt different. It felt urgent. It felt like someone had finally seen what was happening to me. I stood up slowly, my knees aching, and walked to the corner of the room where my old steel trunk rested. It had been there for decades, untouched since my husband passed away. Nimra had once said, throw that junk away, Nana May. It's just memories. But memories were all I had left. I knelt and opened it. The smell of old paper and mothballs filled the room. There were folded saris, wedding photos, letters written in my husband's handwriting. And then I saw it. A blue file. My heart skipped. I pulled it out. Inside were photocopies of property documents, bank forms, and something that made my breath stop. A power of attorney already filled, with my name, and Nimra's, but I had never signed this. Never. My chest tightened. Someone had been planning this for a long time. I sat on the floor. The files spread around me like evidence at a crime scene. Every page told the same story. They had been preparing for months, changing access, drafting documents, contacting lawyers, while I was cooking, praying, waiting for phone calls that never came. I whispered, after everything I sacrificed. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. She thinks you're weak, but you're not. Check the back pocket. Back pocket? I flipped the file. There was a small envelope taped inside. Inside it, a USB drive. My heart raced. I didn't even own a computer. They knew that. That's when I realized whoever sent this message was protecting me. The next day, I went to the only person I trusted, my neighbor Aisha. She was younger, smarter with technology. I showed her the file. Her face darkened. Nana May, this is serious. She plugged in the USB. A folder opened. Audio, videos, screenshots. The first video showed Nimra and Faraz sitting at a table, laughing. Nimra said, "Once she signs, the house is ours." Faraz replied, "And if she doesn't?" Nimra shrugged. "We'll make her." My heart shattered. Aisha covered her mouth. "This is abuse," she whispered. I felt anger rise for the first time. Not loud, not wild, but burning. That evening, Nimra came over. She smiled like nothing was wrong. "Amy, did you think about the papers?" I held the blue file behind my back. She didn't notice. I asked softly, "Why are you doing this to me?" She froze, then laughed. "You're imagining things again." That's when I realized they were counting on my silence. My name is Nana May, and I found out I had been judged without ever being heard. The lawyer's voice still echoed in my ears long after the call ended. "We need to speak about your mental evaluation." Mental evaluation. Two words that can erase a lifetime. I stood in the kitchen holding the phone like it had burned me. My reflection in the window looked smaller than it had the day before. The same walls, the same clock ticking, yet everything had shifted. I whispered, "When did I stop mattering?" The house answered with silence. I wanted to call Nimra immediately, demand the truth, but I already knew it. She had decided something about me, something final, something that would take my voice away. I sat down slowly and opened the blue file again. My hands no longer shook. Something inside me had gone still. Too still. This wasn't confusion anymore. It was war. That afternoon, I went to Aisha again. We sat on her sofa as I put the call on speaker. The lawyer introduced himself calmly, as if he were talking about the weather. "Ms. May, your daughter has expressed concerns regarding your cognitive health. She requested a professional evaluation to protect your assets." Protect. Always that word. I closed my eyes. I was never informed. He hesitated. "Your daughter said you might resist." Resist. As if wanting control of my own life was a crime. Aisha squeezed my hand. The lawyer continued, "There is a preliminary report suggesting early cognitive decline." My chest tightened. "That's impossible," I said. "I manage my home. I pay bills." He cleared his throat. "You've had recent financial confusion. The bank incident. They had turned my fear into proof." That's when I realized the truth. They were writing my story without me. That night, Nimra came. She brought sweets, like always. "I thought you'd be happy to see me," she said softly. I placed the blue file on the table. Her face went pale. "Where did you get that?" So she knew. I whispered, "You were going to take everything." She exploded. "You don't understand. I'm doing this for you. For me." I asked, "Then why did you lie?" She looked away. That silence said more than words. The breaking point. I finally said it. "I didn't raise you like this." Her eyes flashed. "You raised me to survive." That hurt more than anything. The setup. The lawyer called again the next day. The evaluation was scheduled. Without my consent, I was being erased legally. But this time I was ready. My name is Nana May, and the day they tried to declare me unfit, something inside me finally woke up. I didn't sleep the night before the evaluation. The ceiling fan hummed like it was counting my breaths. Every sound felt louder, every memory heavier. For hours, I stared at the shadow of my cupboard, thinking about the woman I used to be. A wife, a mother, the quiet center of this family. And now, a case file. I kept hearing Nimra's voice. "You're imagining things again." I pressed my palm against my chest. No, I was finally seeing clearly. At 7:04 a.m., my phone buzzed. Bank alert, attempted login from new device. Access denied. They were still trying. I didn't react. Instead, I opened the blue file again. Read every page. Listen to every audio. Watch Nimra smile while planning to erase me. That anger, it didn't scream. It steadied me. Aisha drove me. Her hands were tight on the steering wheel. "You don't deserve this," she said. I nodded. I stayed quiet to keep the peace. She looked at me. Peace for who? I had no answer. The clinic was white. Too white. The kind of place where people whispered like their voices could infect others. The receptionist looked at me with polite pity. "Ms. May, your daughter is already inside." Of course she was. Nimra stood when she saw me. Her eyes flickered with relief. "You came," she said. "As you wanted," I replied. She tried to hug me. I stepped back. That small moment felt like a victory. The psychologist asked simple questions. Dates, names, stories from my life. I answered calmly, confidently. I wasn't confused. I was wounded. At one point, he asked, "Do you feel controlled by your family?" I hesitated, then spoke. "Yes." Nimra stiffened. I slid the blue file across the table. The room changed. Audio played. Their voices filled the space. Nimra's face drained of color. The psychologist looked at her. "This changes everything." Nimra whispered, "You went behind my back?" I replied softly, "You went behind my life." She cried, but I felt nothing, only strength. The evaluation was halted. The lawyer would be notified. I walked out taller. For the first time in years, I felt seen. That night, Faraz texted, "You've made a big mistake." My phone vibrated. Another unknown number. They're not done yet. My heart pounded. What were they planning now? "My name is Nana May." And the moment they realized I wasn't weak anymore, they started to panic. The text from Faraz stayed on my phone all night. "You've made a big mistake." I read it once. Then again. Mistake. As if standing up for myself was a crime. At 6:12 a.m., another alert buzzed. Smart doorbell, motion detected. I sat up in bed. The screen showed Nimra standing outside my door, her face tense, her hair pulled back tightly like she was bracing for battle. She pressed the bell. Once. Twice. I didn't answer. My heart raced, but my body stayed still. For the first time, I was choosing myself. At 8:30, Aisha arrived. She held her phone up. "I called a legal aid office. They'll see you today." Legal aid. The word sounded heavy. Important. We took a taxi. The city passed like a blur. I kept thinking, when did my life become something others decided for me? The lawyer. Her name was Ms. Kieran. She listened. Really listened. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she said they tried to commit financial abuse and guardianship fraud. Fraud. That word felt powerful. She asked, "Do you want to file a complaint?" I hesitated. Images of my children filled my mind. Then I remembered Nimra's voice on the recording. I nodded. "Yes." Miss Kieran explained. They had tried to make me sign a digital will. They had contacted a doctor willing to write a false report. They were moving fast because they were in debt, using me as collateral. My pain turned into clarity. That evening, my phone exploded with messages. "Nimra, please talk to me." "Faraz, we can fix this." "Unknown, they're scared now." I didn't reply. Silence was my shield. My name is Nana May, and the day my family was exposed, I realized silence had protected the wrong people. The bank freeze message still glowed on my phone when I heard shouting outside. Not loud, urgent, panicked. I peered through the curtains. Nimra and Faraz stood on the porch again. But this time, they weren't confident. They looked afraid. Faraz was on his phone, pacing. Nimra's hands were shaking. For a moment, I almost opened the door. Old habits, old love. But then I remembered the audio, the words, the laughter. I stepped back. At 10:21 a.m., Miss Kieran called. "The complaint has triggered a court review. They've been summoned." Summoned. That word made my heart race. This was real now. Public. No more whispers. The courthouse smelled of old paper and nervous sweat. People avoided each other's eyes. I sat alone on the wooden bench. Nimra sat across from me. She wouldn't look at me. Faraz whispered angrily into his phone. I felt small, but not powerless. When our case was called, the courtroom went quiet. The judge listened as Ms. Kieran played the audio. Nimra's voice echoed. "Once she signs, the house is ours." Gasps filled the room. I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. Outside, Nimra collapsed. "Why would you do this to us?" she cried. I answered softly. "You did this to yourselves." For the first time, they were the ones ashamed. That night, I received a message. You've started something you can't finish. Unknown. My heart pounded. Who else was involved? And how far would they go? My name is Nana May, and the day I discovered the secret they had hidden from me, I realized my entire life had been a lie. It began with a knock at the door. Not the usual polite, timid knock. Hard, urgent, demanding attention. I froze. My fingers still clutched the blue file, the papers that had become my armor. I didn't answer at first. I waited, silent, watching shadows move across the door frame. The knocks came again, faster this time. A hurried voice whispered, almost on the edge of panic, "Nana, May, it's for you. Please, open." I hesitated. The message from the unknown number lingered in my mind. You are not alone. For years, I had been invisible in my own home. Silent sacrifices ignored. Voice unheard. Love taken for granted. Yet here, finally, someone had chosen me. Not my daughter. Not Faraz. Someone else. Someone who had been watching, waiting, ready to reveal what had been hidden. On the doorstep lay a thick manila envelope. No name. No return address. Just a small post-it. Read before they come back. I brought it inside carefully. My hand shook, not with fear, but with anticipation. I opened it slowly. Inside were documents. Not just any documents. Photos, legal papers, emails, WhatsApp chats, all dated years ago. And then a handwritten letter. It was from my late husband. The letter began simply, "My dearest Nana May, there are things about our family you do not know and things you must protect yourself from. Trust no one blindly, especially those closest to you." I paused. Read the line again. Trust no one blindly. I had trusted Nimra. I had trusted Faraz. The letter went on. I left certain documents in the blue file. They contain the truth about our property and family business. If ever the wrong hands try to take advantage of you, this file will protect you. Guard it with your life. I felt my pulse quicken. All these years, my husband had left me the key to survival. But what was the secret? I flipped through the documents. There were bank statements showing transfers I had never authorized, emails from lawyers I had never contacted, and a hidden will, one that gave me full ownership of the house and all family assets, bypassing Nimra and Faraz entirely if they tried to manipulate me. I sank into my chair. All this time, they had believed I was powerless, blind, weak, easily pushed aside, and yet I had been the one holding the final authority. I picked up the WhatsApp chats from the file. Nimra, once she signs, it's ours. No one can stop us. Faraz, if she refuses, we'll find another way. I read them over and over. My stomach twisted. They had planned it all. For months. For years, maybe. The betrayal wasn't sudden. It had been slowly engineered. Every little helpful suggestion. Every just routine bank visit. Every whispered warning that I was confused or forgetful. And the blue file my husband had known. He had prepared me, without me knowing, for exactly this moment. I whispered to the empty room. I should have seen this. But the words felt hollow. The truth had been hiding in plain sight. I realized that night I was no longer the victim. I was the one with the leverage. I could go to the bank. I could expose the fraud. I could protect myself legally. Nimra and Faraz had underestimated me. Not because I was weak. Because I had silently observed. I had been patient. I had been careful. And now, I held all the cards. The next morning, I called Nimra. "Amy, what are you doing?" she said, trying to sound casual. I laughed softly, almost cruelly. "Do you really want to know?" She froze. Her voice cracked. "Amy, you don't understand. I'm just trying to help." I held the blue file up. Help? Or erase me? Silence. Then tears. Not mine. Hers. Faraz appeared in the background. We didn't know. I cut him off. You did. And you planned it. The room went quiet. Even their bravado had left them. For the first time, I felt vindicated. Powerful. Alive. I went through every document again. Hidden bank accounts. Unbreakable property rights. Legal leverage over the house and any future assets. And then the biggest shock. A DNA test app record, also hidden in the file. It showed that Faraz was not legally entitled to half of what he thought he owned. The family business he boasted about was partially mine. This secret, if revealed, it would completely dismantle their plan. And finally, justice was mine to decide. I sat in silence for hours. I remembered every moment Nimra had smiled and lied, every word that had tried to diminish me. I realized something terrifying. I could have fought them years ago, but I hadn't known the truth. I had been blind to the real danger. And now, I could choose how this ended. I whispered to myself, I am not weak. I am not invisible. I am the authority. I am Nana May. For the first time in decades, I slept without fear. My name is Nana May, and the day I walked into the courtroom, I realized fear had finally found its place in their eyes, not mine. The courthouse smelled of polished wood and anxiety. People whispered. Judges shuffled papers. Lawyers tapped pens like tiny drumbeats of judgment. I felt calm. For the first time in years, I was not invisible. I carried the blue file under my arm. Every document, every hidden audio, every secret. This was my shield, my sword, my truth. Nimra and Faraz sat across from me. Their eyes flickered nervously, searching for allies, for sympathy. There was none. For the first time, I noticed they were not confident. They were exposed. The judge called the session to order. I stood as Ms. Kieran approached the bench. Your Honor, she said firmly, we are here today because Ms. Nana May has been subjected to financial coercion, attempted guardianship fraud, and unauthorized manipulation of her assets by her immediate family. The room went quiet. Whispers traveled from the back benches. Nimra's face paled. Faraz clenched his fists. I stayed still, silent, imposing in my quiet dignity. The judge raised an eyebrow. And what evidence does Ms. May present? He asked. Ms. Kieran smiled slightly. She nodded at me. I stepped forward, opened the blue file. Audio recordings played. Nimra laughing, plotting, Faraz's voice approving. Once she signs, the house is ours. If she resists, we'll find another way. The courtroom gasped. I didn't flinch. The judge's eyes narrowed. The murmurs grew louder. Then came the emails. Lawyers, bank transfers, hidden accounts, all documented in my handwriting and my husband's notes. Nimra's hand shook. Faraz looked around desperately. Their power, carefully built over months, crumbled in seconds. I whispered softly to myself, I am not weak. I am the authority. Ms. Kieran continued, laying out the facts. The defendants attempted to declare Ms. May unfit to manage her own finances. They fabricated evidence of cognitive decline, pressured her to sign documents, and manipulated her access to all accounts. They did so secretly, intentionally, and with premeditation. Nimra whispered something to Faraz. We didn't. The judge raised a hand. Silence in this courtroom. The evidence speaks for itself. For the first time, Nimra and Faraz had no words. Their bravado gone. Their smiles vanished. I felt satisfaction, not cruelty. Only justice. The blue file rested in my hands, tangible proof of years of careful planning by my late husband, and now my own vigilance. I realized something terrifyingly empowering. They had thought they controlled me, but it was I who controlled the outcome now. The judge asked if I wished to speak. I took a breath. Every eye in the room on me. I am not weak. I am not invisible. I am Nana May. I raised this family. I sacrificed everything. And yet, I was treated like I had no voice. Today, that ends. Silence. Then murmurs. Then the judge leaned forward. Ms. May, your courage is noted. This court acknowledges the attempted coercion against you. As if the day wasn't dramatic enough, the clerk handed me a new envelope. Inside was a printout from the DNA test app. Faraz was not legally entitled to half of the family business shares. The court staff whispered. Nimra gasped. Faraz's face turned crimson. Suddenly, the courtroom became a theater. Your Honor, I said, showing the papers, these documents were hidden intentionally. The defendants attempted to usurp assets that were never legally theirs. The judge nodded gravely. This adds another layer to the proceedings. The matter will be investigated immediately. I felt a surge of triumph. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. Microphones thrust forward. Ms. Nana May, how do you feel? I stood tall. answered calmly, I feel justice is being served, and I feel proud to finally protect what is mine. The reporters shifted to Nimra and Faraz. Their faces were pale, shame written across every expression. For the first time, they were seen exactly as they were: manipulative, greedy, exposed. I walked away from the courthouse doors, the sun warm on my face. For years, I had been the silent observer, the quiet mother, the one who never fought back. Now, everything had changed. I realized that strength is not loud. It is steadfast, patient, and precise. I whispered to myself, this is only the beginning. The war is not over. But they know. Nana May is not weak. That night, as I returned home, another alert from my bank. Suspicious login attempts detected. Accounts temporarily frozen. Unknown number texts arrived almost simultaneously. They won't stop. Prepare for escalation. I held the blue file tightly. I realized something chilling. Even now, my family might try desperation moves. What they had lost today, they might try to regain by any means. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready. My name is Nana May, and the day I finally reclaimed my life, I realized the cost of silence and the price of truth. The morning sun streamed through the curtains, warm and golden, yet heavy with anticipation. I sat at the kitchen table, the blue file open before me. Every document, every recording, every secret carefully preserved. My phone buzzed. Another alert from the bank. Account restrictions lifted. Finally, control was mine again. But the unknown number's message lingered in my mind. They won't stop. Prepare for escalation. I swallowed. My eyes drifted to the doorway. I was ready. The final court day. The courthouse smelled like polished wood and old paper. Whispers swirled through the air like a storm waiting to break. Nimra and Faraz were there, their faces pale, hands trembling. They avoided eye contact, not with the judge, but with me. That's when I realized the power had shifted. I didn't have to speak yet. Just my presence alone was enough. Ms. Kieran approached the bench, papers in hand. Your Honor, the plaintiff presents final evidence in the case of financial coercion and guardianship fraud. The judge leaned forward. His expression was curious, even cautious. Proceed. I stepped forward and handed the blue file to Ms. Kieran. The audio bomb. She played the first recording. Nimra. Once she signs, the house is ours. Faraz. If she refuses, we'll find another way. The room fell silent. Gasps echoed from the back benches. Then came the emails, bank statements, digital wills, every lie, every betrayal meticulously documented. And finally, the hidden DNA app records. Faraz was exposed as partially unentitled to the family business. Nimra clutched her purse, eyes wide. Faraz sank in his chair. The court had never seen anything like this, and neither had my daughter. My speech. I took a breath. Every eye was on me. I am not weak. I am not invisible. I am Nana May. I raised my children. I sacrificed my life for them. I never expected betrayal from my own family. But today, the truth is here, and I will not be silenced again. The judge's gaze softened. The courtroom shifted. Even the reporters scribbled furiously, capturing my words. I felt vindicated. Strong. Alive. The shocking revelation. Just when the tension peaked, Miss Kieran handed the judge's sealed envelope. Your Honor, this was found in Ms. May's home. It contains additional documents relevant to the case. The judge opened it slowly. Inside, a handwritten note from my husband. Nimra and Faraz were never the heirs to the full property. Only Nana May is the rightful owner. Any attempts to manipulate, coerce, or remove her from control are legally void. A collective gasp filled the room. Even the judge leaned forward. This changes everything, he said gravely. The crowd erupted in whispers. Nimra covered her face. Faraz shook in disbelief. I smiled quietly to myself. The courtroom humiliation. For the first time, Nimra spoke. Amy, please. It's not what it looks like. I shook my head. No, I trusted you. I helped you. And you betrayed me. The truth is out. You are exposed. Faraz tried to interject, but the judge raised a hand. Silence. The evidence is overwhelming. I realized this wasn't just legal victory. It was public humiliation for the people who tried to erase me. And I savored it. Quietly, dignified, the celebration of power. After the hearing, reporters crowded around. Nana May, how do you feel? I answered calmly. I feel justice has been served. I feel proud to finally stand for myself. And I feel empowered. No one should ever underestimate the quiet strength of a mother. Nimra and Faraz were in the background, faces pale, humbled. For the first time, I realized I wasn't just protecting my home or finances. I was protecting my dignity, my identity, my life, the new threat. But just as I felt relief, my phone buzzed again. A new number. You've won the battle, but the war is far from over. Watch your back. I held the blue file tighter. I understood now. The people who tried to destroy me would never stop completely. And yet, I wasn't afraid. I had the truth. I had the law. I had myself. Reflection. I walked home that evening. The sun dipped low over the rooftops, painting the sky gold. For years, I had been invisible, ignored, taken for granted. I had stayed quiet to keep the peace. Now everything had changed. I whispered to the empty house. I am Nana May. I am the authority, and I will never be silent again. I sat down, the blue file in front of me. There was still a long road ahead. Nimra and Faraz might try again. There were still secrets waiting in the shadows. But one thing was clear.